All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is Craig Dees, Marketing Director for Cloudaction. On behalf of the Cloudaction team, I would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, The Simplicity of ITSM in the Cloud, an Expert's View of the BMC Remedyforce Advantage. Now at Cloudaction, we place a premium on collaboration, on community, and sharing knowledge, whether that's through direct interaction with our customers and our primary partners, BMC and Salesforce, or through the Cloudaction blog, or through our new Ask Us Now complimentary service to get expert advice on our website, or through webinars like this. And today, in today's webinar, everybody wins. Simply by attending, you're entered into a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. If your name is selected, and if you participate in today's 3 live polls, we'll double that amount. Plus, all attendees receive a 1-hour consulting assessment or health check compliments of Cloudaction. Now, before we introduce today's presenter, a few housekeeping details. Attendees' microphones are on mute. If you have any questions at any time during the webinar, you can send them to us using the questions window located at the top of the webinar screen. We will do our best to respond to all the questions at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to them, we promise to respond to you within 24 hours. Now I'd like to introduce Mark Hodge. Mark is a senior consultant here at Cloudaction. He's led over 15 Remedyforce implementations. He's got multiple ITIL certifications. He's Dev 401 certified and also a Remedyforce certified administrator. And he is a regular blogger on the Cloudaction blog. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mark Hodge. Mark?
Craig, thank you very much. That was a nice introduction. And welcome everyone to today's presentation. You know, as a service desk manager, in my former life, part of my responsibility was to help manage a large enterprise on-premise solution. In the beginning, things looked good. We made the time to strategize and build our solution. It soon changed because we were not agile enough to respond to changes in a timely manner. So armed with the experiences of what we had been through, we settled on Remedyforce. I think that guy right here on the left, I don't know if he's surprised by the high cost of infrastructure or that picture of me he saw on the slide before. Anyway. Our premise solution was eating us alive. You know, the cycle for change was long and complicated, and this slide illustrates the simplicity of the cloud when it comes to cost on infrastructure. By having a SaaS model, we were able to manage our CapEx spend versus OpEx budgets much cleaner. Next slide. So what can Remedyforce do for you? Today we're going to focus on several different modules. Looking at all the modules that you see here are out of the box Remedyforce, and today it's going to be focused on self-service, incident management, service request management, knowledge management, a little bit of chatter and reports, and a matter of fact I'll be doing some configurations on these modules and also touch on problem change and configuration management. So again, thank you for joining, and Craig, let's go ahead and start our first poll. So what are some of the biggest challenges with your current help desk system? And this is a multi-select poll, so you can select more than one answer. And we'll give everybody just a couple minutes here to, actually we're going to give you about 30 seconds. And submit your responses. Another few seconds. All right, Craig, let's see what it looks like. So it looks like 75% of the responses were saying that the reporting lacks depth in monitoring the supported technology, and that's very common to see that. It's hard to track your KPIs and without going through a lot of effort create a report. So come in second was the system's not intuitive enough to help improve processes, and then on-premise versus utilizing ITIL. Okay, good information. Thank you, everybody. So what we're going to do now is Craig is going to pass me over as presenter, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Remedyforce self-service portal. When you come into the Remedyforce self-service portal, you have two tabs. The Home tab shows your standard Salesforce components, and you can add different things like your chatter feed, approvals. There's lots of different things that are Force.com basics. When we go to the Remedyforce self-service tab, this is what your end users are going to see. This is the free client software portal that you're looking at right now. And the first thing you notice is the banner floating across the top here. If you click on this little radio tower at the top, you can see that the question here is telling me to log a ticket if I have problems with my HR system. So when I come up and click on the radio tower, I have a couple of options here. One is I can follow these broadcasts within the chatter feed. That way, if there's anybody responding to these broadcasts or collaborating on the broadcast, I can see these also. I'm going to go ahead and submit a ticket because I am having problems with my HR system. And I'm just going to mention that I cannot log in. So I submit the ticket, and I'm going to go ahead and I've got ticket 239. We're going to get notifications going out, and then I'm going to leave the page. So the next thing I want to do is I want to look at the quick links over here. The quick links allows your users to be able to go to, let's say, some on-demand training for the tool, your internet site, different blogs. I like the BMC Communities tab because I can go right to my community page and I can do searches on active items. I can put in ideas. So it's a very powerful tool. We also have kind of an Ask the Experts, so that if you want to come to Cloudaction, this is what Craig had mentioned earlier, you can ask us now and we will get back to you within 24 hours on a response. So that you can add multiple links in here, and it's very nice to just have your end users kind of work out of one place. So you also want to check your profile here and your help. And then let's take notice of your common requests that you have here in your knowledge articles. So these are the most you can have hundreds of knowledge articles and common requests, but these are the most popular ones that you're going to have. So let's take a look at this new knowledge article that was put out not too long ago about configuring my iPad for Exchange. So once I click on the knowledge article, and the idea is that we give self-help so the end users do not have to put a ticket in. If they can do it themselves, then let's give them the power to do it. So I read through the article, and I do find it helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this was a helpful article, and just put in, any verbiage is going to show up on a back-end report. If I can spell article. And I submit it. So now that article will go back to the back end, and later on when we look at viewing the knowledge articles, we'll see how helpful that one was. Now let's just take a regular ticket that you have issues with and we don't necessarily have a template for, and I'm going to just create and submit a ticket. I'm having printer issues. I know I searched my knowledge, I don't have a printer per se list that a knowledge article that I can use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click printer, and I'm going to attach a screenshot of my printer issue. Let's find it. I had a screenshot. There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this ticket for this printer issue. A lot of the folks that I work with that I've done implementations for, they have a lot of confusion around their new hire process. It gets started, there's paperwork that goes around, people, it moves one at a time to individuals that are responsible for, let's say, doing Active Directory or access to certain applications. So with a service request here, this common service request that we built out for a new hire process, you can see I have a clean form here. And what you can do, let's say I'm the HR manager and I want to submit it on behalf of the hiring manager. So what that does is that gives the ability for the hiring manager to stay in touch with the components of the hiring, the tasks that are going to go along. So if something gets stuck, they can't get access to software, maybe a computer doesn't show up in time, then they're able to be in the know, get an alert of what's going on. So let's make myself. And what I'm going to do is, Craig Dees, we've been practicing this, so I've hired Craig over, I don't know, 25 times this week. And we're going to put a
salary's still not good enough, though, Mark.
Okay, well, we'll come back with a big one, maybe. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the marketing, and we're going to say he's a manager. He's going to be in. Where do you want to work? You want to work in New York or Tulsa?
Put me in Tulsa.
All right, we'll put you in Tulsa. And we come on down and then we say, what kind of devices does Craig need? Well, when you click on the laptop, you can see that it expands based on condition and gives me two more options. I have a MacBook Pro and a Lenovo ThinkPad. And if you sit on top of the checkbox, you can see this is a new feature in Winter 14 where it gives you a tooltip. So this tooltip will help you to know I may need CIO approval, I may need manager approval, or no approval at all. So I really like the tooltip. I come down. I also need a tablet. And so I have an iPad and a Microsoft Pro. Well, with a Microsoft Pro, you're going to need CIO approval. But you know what? We're going to try to get it there for you. And the last thing that Craig's going to need as far as devices is he's going to need a phone. So we're going to get him the new iPhone 6. We come down because Craig's in marketing. Let's go ahead and get him some Adobe software so he can be creative. He's a creative type. And we're going to give him access to Remedyforce and the HR system. And if your company has a process, where you have an offer letter or something like that, you could attach that offer letter right here. And we've got all this information, so we're going to go ahead and submit this request. And guess what? We get an error, because what happens commonly is when somebody comes with a new hire request, they expect to get it the next day. So if you have a good process in place to say, you know what, you need to give IT at least a week, before you start adding in or requesting this issue, we can't do it tomorrow. So I put in a condition there that they have to go out at least a week. Let's go ahead and make them start on the 3rd. And we're going to submit. And if you can see, I say, please allow 7 days. We submit it. And what's happening now is in the back end, there's all these tasks that are being assigned to the correct groups that can manage through this service request. And when we get over to the staff portal, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Another thing that you can do is you have a multi-tab approach here in the system. So I could go in here and I could have multiple tabs up and I could bounce back and forth. So you can see here's my chatter feed. I haven't got anything about the HR system. I can follow people. I can create groups. I can do polls. I'm sure a lot of you on the phone here are familiar with chatter. If I look at tickets and requests, this is another way to help prevent or at least lead the staff team down the right path to fixing something. If you remember as a user you had an issue before and you go, I know I had this issue before, and you want to be able to allow your end users to search on past tickets, no matter what state they're in. And as a manager, you can do that for other people as well. And you can also search on status. So giving the power to search on past results is huge. I used to have people come to me when I had my on-premise solution, and they were like, hey, can you go find these tickets for me? I know I put these in, and I was like, wow, really? And it was really a complicated query sometimes to find some of these tickets. So all of these tiles can be reordered, and you can also, you're also able to put in custom tiles if you wanted to, and move those custom tiles around. If I manage approvals, I can do that from here as well. I know a lot of managers complain that they had too many approvals all the time, and so having them all in one place is crucial, and it saves time and it makes people nicer. So I'm able to submit an approval, and we'll let that finish. And those were 2 change requests, you can see by the top of their change requests, and they are approved. So that is the self-service portal at a glance. So what we want to do now is we're going to take our second poll. So our second poll is, what do you customers say about your current help desk system? And this is another multi-select, and a very common one. I'm going to let everybody select, and I'll say. And submit the poll. We'll give it another few seconds here, Craig.
Looks like people are still voting.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to give it about 5 seconds and then close it.
Okay.
Let's close it now.
Thank you, sir. So we got a couple. Number 1, it takes too long to resolve their issue. I hear that a lot, and people are like, okay, where's my ticket? Well, it's just been sitting there, and it's not really the service desk issue as much as it is maybe there's something we're waiting on, some development to take place. We don't correctly have this incident categorized maybe as a problem, things like that. But it's common for the end users to think that. And never knowing who's working on their issue, I'm not so sure that's such a bad thing. They should know which group is working on the issue. If people are constantly knowing who works on their issue, they may try to circumvent the process and go directly to the resource that knows how to fix it properly. If the resource pushes back, then that's the right way to do it, but I've seen that happen. It's, walk-ups, people emailing, calling. So when you build the process, you got to stick to it. And obviously searching for the right category. I see a lot of people, when they build these category trees, they want to put in other as a catch-all. Well, if you put a catch-all in there, guess what? That's what people are going to enter as the ticket. All right, thank you, Craig. And so now we are looking at the staff portal. And this is where your staff is going to work out of, and you're also going to be doing administration through this page here. So give me a second to find my place here. So the Remedyforce console is your default landing tab, as you see here. You can set up whatever default landing tab you want. But commonly is your staff is going to be working on this tab right here. So we have a lot of different features. We have the home and chatter, which we briefly went over. Dashboards and reports we're going to talk about. We're going to do some configuration through the Remedyforce administration. We also have the Remedyforce self-service exposed to the staff users. That way they can understand what the customers are seeing, and they can quickly toggle to the Remedyforce self-service and see exactly what the customer is seeing. So it's very, very nice to have. Knowledge articles we're going to talk about, and we're going to touch a little bit on CMDB and releases. So the incidents have came into the system, and if you notice here, I have many columns. I have my incident number all the way to my due date, and these icons here indicate if a due date has been passed, right? So I don't have a due date assigned to this one. It's green. This little bell means that I have not assigned this ticket. It's a new incident, and the VIP client is indicated by this little man right here with a tie. So you can see the yellow one. It's yellow because I'm halfway to the due date. So this is one that I may want to look at and try to resolve as soon as possible. And then I also If it's red, that means it's past due and I've missed my SLA. So let's go ahead and let's give us a little more real estate by clearing out these sidebars. And what we want to do here is we want to open an incident. And when we open an incident, we have really two sides to the incident. We have an incident form and the record details. The incident form shows us all of the custom fields within Remedyforce, and we're going to go over a few of these. You can assign an account to a particular incident. It allows you to you can show content based on account numbers within Remedyforce, which I think is a great feature. So if you have a lot of internal accounts that are in different locations and they're using different software, you can use different content out on the self-service portal by assigning an account number. Very powerful. Templates we're going to talk about here in a little bit. We see that the status is open, and we haven't assigned an impact and urgency yet. This is one user having a problem, so we're just going to give it a low. Now, the impact and urgency drives the priority matrix, and that priority matrix is configurable, and you can make it drive your due date. So I'm going to say that this is in progress. I'm going to go ahead and assign it to myself. And if you want to, you can move these tiles, these field sets, to wherever you like them. You can add custom fields or remove fields that you're not using. My recommendation is best practice is to stay out of the box as you can, because as you unlock features in the tool, you're going to be able to use them. For instance, the request definitions, the templates. So you want to make sure that you keep those fields in place. So we went ahead and we saved it, and I come over here to the record details, and I don't see anything except that it was open from self-service, this particular one. So what I'm going to do is, I don't have enough information. I'm going to go ahead and send an email over to the client. Now what's beautiful about this is that you can keep this email intact with the incident. So when you send an email and they reply back to it, it's all tracked within the incident. It's great for internal audits, complaint handling, things like that. So I send this off. And now you can see that I have a couple of different things here. I have an email sent. I have that it was open in self-service. These are all trackable things that you can put into a report if you wanted to. Now I'm also going to say, I add a note here, and I'm going to say this customer is always having printer problems. And I may come down here and say I spent 5 minutes working on this, and I add the note. And when it refreshes, this note will be in there. So I've got all my notes and everything. The customer finally responds back to me. I come in, I map the printer. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the ticket. Now you have a quick close, which will automatically just change the status to close, or you have a close, I have to save it, or you have a close where it will automatically bring up another page layout that gives you the ability to, oh, I hit the wrong one, sorry guys. And let me go back to that one. Actually, you know what, I'm going to go to another incident. Working on a live system here. You know what? It's probably in all that printer problem that we just entered a while ago. You know what? I don't have that one. Let's go to this iPhone 6. And I just wanted to show you the closed page layout. Wants me to add a category. So there is some validation that you can put in here. And this is a mobile device. So validation rules and making fields required is key. As you can see, the category was required there. So now I save it. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And now I get my closed page layout. So if I want to drill down even more and say, you know, I resolved this, but it was a workaround issue, or I just resolved it, or I couldn't reproduce it, these are all fields that you can add different values to. So I'm just going to say it was resolved, and I'm going to close it. Now that the incident has been closed, it's going to drop off my view. I don't have my own private view here, so I'm going to go, I have just the queue views. And this is another new feature within Remedyforce release that came out where you can come in here and quickly add your new views. I'm going to create one just for myself. And I'm going to show just my incidents. And I'm going to show that I only want the ones that are open. And I only want to be visible to me. I'm not going to worry about the fields to display there. And then when I come in here and I refresh it, I now have a new view that's only viewable to me. And I have a lot of tickets to work on, as you can see. So what happens when that ticket goes closed? Well, BMC then will send out a survey request. And this survey request is on the closed email that goes out to your client. So at the bottom of the page is a survey. These questions are all configurable. And I'm not going to give myself such good grades. They're all configurable and they show up on your survey dashboard automatically, which is a very nice feature. I'm going to say slightly. And then I submit it. Boom. It's done. So the next thing we want to do is we want to talk about, let's take the collapsible sides off. And just over the last couple of releases, Remedyforce came out with the ability to have all of these different objects in one list view, which I think makes it so much easier to manage through the different objects that you have in Remedyforce. So you have your task, problem, change, releases, and broadcast all together. So I'm going to come into my broadcast, and I can see that I have just one broadcast floating here. That's active, well, in this view. So I have to look at my complete view. So I have one assigned to network and one assigned to service desk. When I create a broadcast, it's very simple. I click on this. I say, what was my broadcast ID? I assign a category. I'm going to scroll the message. You also have the ability to put this through an approval process if you want to. So that way you can let anybody enter a broadcast, but only certain people be able to promote and post the broadcast. I'm going to put the impact as high and the urgency as high, and I'm going to save it. So now I have submitted a broadcast. It's that simple. The power of this broadcast is that when you start to get inundated with calls on issues, you do a quick verification, and then you're able to get that broadcast put out there, and that's going to prevent a lot of tickets from being put in the system. And then it also, the people where the tickets got into the system, you have the ability to go back to your incidents. And let's say I wanted to tie different incidents to the broadcast. And link to broadcast. And I'm going to link it to, my email one hasn't quite made it there yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do it to this experience and slowness. We link it. Now if you notice, that was 196, 193, and 184. So if I go back to broadcast, and this is the one that I linked, I'm going to say resolved. I close it. But before I do, if you look over here, you can see all of those linked incidents that I just did. And it's going to update those and close all of those incidents at one time so that you don't have to worry about closing them all by hand. Very powerful. How are we doing on time there, Craig?
We're right at noon, 1 o'clock your time.
Thank you, sir. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about the knowledge articles. I had mentioned those earlier, how these are self-help. And I went over one of the knowledge articles, and we submitted a request to say, hey, this article helped us. And it was for this article right here. So as a staff member, I come in and I see the article. I see that it's published. It's a how-to. And I see exactly what the article, now I can come down here and I can see, hey, this thing has been viewed 6 times in self-service. I just put it out there. It's been used 4 times. And if I hover over the little question marks, it tells me a little more information. And look, I've got all this good information from my end users that this article was helpful. So that way, I'm going to keep this article out there because it is very helpful. Let's go look at the one for the BlackBerry. Since, you know, BlackBerries, some people still use them, I guess. No offense to anybody that has one. So I come down here and I see that I've only viewed this BlackBerry one 5 times. I've had it out there for quite a while. Nobody's using it. And I'm retiring this baby. I could say, hey, let's do a survey. Who's really using the BlackBerry? Do we really need a BlackBerry reset? Or how do I send an email? No, we don't really need that. Let's just go ahead and retire it. Its time has come. Another thing that you can do is you can have anybody create a knowledge article, but to keep controls over it, you may want to put an approval process around it. So if you notice, I have a new iPhone 6 knowledge article, and I'm going to submit for approval. Once I submit for approval, I now come down here and I have a pending approval ready for this article. Now this approval will go out through an email. It'll also be available on the self-service portal where I showed you approvals, and right here within the knowledge article itself. So I'm going to go ahead and approve this. And once I do, I have a trigger in there to actually make the status published. I could also add the trigger to make it display in self-service, but I want to make sure there's an extra step there because there may be some knowledge articles I don't want to expose out to the portal. I only want my internal IT to see. So I save it, and then I'm going to come back over. As a staff user, I have my own Remedyforce self-service. I just want to see if that iPhone 6, what it looks like here. And there it is. I can open it. I can view it. I can submit a rating. So that way, it's very agile and simple to get these articles out there. And when you're doing configuration, you want to make sure that you have some controls around promoting new articles and changing things and adding things. just like any good IT shop, you want to have some change control around it. So our next thing that we want to talk about is we're going to do a little bit of configuration here. So if we bounce over to the Remedyforce administration, we had the new iPhone 6 come out last week, or this week. I saw some guy in Australia, he was the first one to get it and he dropped it on the ground. I was like, wow. So we got the category. I come in and I search for iPhone 6, or just iPhone, because I probably have my iPhone 5 out there. Yeah, I still got that out there. But I'm going to go ahead and add my iPhone 6. So when I add a new category, I can either have it as a standalone category or I can add it under a parent. So I think the best way is to have a parent-child relationship to reduce your category structure and keep your data integrity a little tighter. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a brief abbreviation. This just saves time on a reporting. You could even go further as to have a category type to group your categories all as one type for reporting purposes. So say like, okay, I've got hardware, everything's under, this is everything under hardware or software. And then I'm going to go find my parent category, which is my mobile. And now I've attached it to a parent category. I want to make this available to my self-service. I save it. And now I have created that. And if you notice, the tab management is similar to the self-service, and below the tab you have sub-buttons. So easy to navigate, easy to change. Next thing I know is I want to make it simple for my end users to submit an iPhone 6 request. And I want to be able to populate as many fields as I can and direct this template to the correct group for managing. So I'm going to search for iPhone. I have iPhone as part of one of my tasks for that new hire process I showed you. I'm going to click on New. I'm going to go to Incident. I'm going to call it iPhone 6. A system template is a behind-the-scenes template that you don't want to expose to your end users. This could be something that helps drives, for instance, a trigger for changing a status, or just a behind-the-scenes type of template that you don't want your users to see. I'm going to put it in a quick description. Keywords helps you to manage, help people find similar tickets that had similar issues. So by putting in keywords, I'm able to do search and say, show me all the similar tickets for iPhone 6 or cell phone tickets, things like that. This is where the keywords comes in handy. I'm not going to talk about chatter listener, but that's hashtag. You can build hashtag functionality within these templates that will, when you're in chatter, you can do a hashtag and it will automatically create an incident for you. So I'm going to create a category, and I'm going to find my iPhone 6. I'm going to add that as my category. And I'm going to go ahead and put in just a brief description. Now these descriptions obviously can be appended once the staff user is working on them. I'm going to put an impact and an urgency. The urgency is high because the person can't do their job without having their phone fixed. I'm going to add that. The impact is high too because they may not be able to do their sales call or see their calendar. You can also put in, some people want to put in extra wording around high, medium, and low. But that's all about working with, professional services to iron out these sort of things, these sort of processes for categories and statuses and things like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a owner, right? I don't want my service desk to work on this, but I do want my telecom team to work on it. I click on telecom, I add it, and now I've created a new incident template. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to go back over and I'm going to expose this to my self-service portal. So with these tiles here, these are all the administration tiles that are back in, that can be locked down from, really you only want to have just a couple of administrators working on this. You don't want everybody to have access to administration. I see iPhone 6. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to put it up above my password reset. I'm going to save it. Hit OK. Let me just pop over here to my Remedyforce self-service real quick. I want to see what it looks like. There it is. So I've now created a quick iPhone 6 template. I'm going to submit a ticket. Now, when you buy Remedyforce, you have many options to either have developer sandboxes or full sandboxes, and you can do a lot of configuration and testing in those sandboxes that'll really help you refine your processes. So I strongly encourage that. So when you develop in your sandbox, you can do a change set and push it back out to your production environment. So I'm going to pop back over here to incidents, and I'm going to look at all the tickets that came in. There's that new iPhone 6 template that we just created. As you can see, I've got my template field. My priority is a 1. I've assigned it to my telecom team. So if I came over here and I looked at my view again, telecom, there it is. So that everybody in that queue will get a notification, and then they take ownership and finish the ticket. Now let's look at the all again. I want to show you one brief thing, and then we're going to do a change on a service request. And the service request that we're going to do a change on is this new hiring process. So with a new hiring process, it comes in as one ticket, and here's your service request definition. These are all the fields that I filled in for that service request, so I can see what's needed. Now I don't have to go through and do this all, because we've already got tasks that were created automatically off of that one service request. So we've got the AD guy working on something, we've got desktop support, Oracle. All of this has been automated to go to those queues so that they can manage the service request. So what does it give you? It gives you a quick turnaround on a new hire, and it gives you more consistency on your data and making sure the workflow is not missed. I absolutely see so much where the ball gets dropped because somebody thinks somebody else was working on something else, and so this really helps you kind of keep it all in one piece. So there was one thing I noticed about the service request that we were working on there, that we were missing something out of that service request. So when you're working on a service request, you come to the request definitions. And the one that we were looking at was the new hire process. So when you build a service request, you have to have a service offering, a category, and service request templates. And there's all kinds of information. I can submit this on approval automatically. We're going to focus on fulfillment. When I go down to the input fields, I come down to my software, and I don't see that I have Microsoft Office in here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on a new field. It's going to be a checkbox. I'm going to say Microsoft Office. And it's 800 bucks. Got to have a little markup on there. The URL can point you directly to the service request. The tooltip, again, is a screen pop. So we'll say needs manager approval. I'm going to leave it in the first column. If I wanted to put it in the second column, I could. I could invoke a condition based on what was selected. But for this presentation, I am just going to add it. You can get really fancy with these service requests. I come down, I see that my Microsoft Office is down here. I'm going to move it up to the top by software. I'm going to save it. And then I'll pop over here and see what it looks like. So I'll pull up my new hire. Come down to software. There's my Microsoft Office. My screen pop's working. All is beautiful. And that's how easy it is to change and build service requests. Obviously, that's a pretty quick run through, but it shows you how fast you can get things to production and how simple and agile it is. So we got a couple more minutes. Those are the main topics that I wanted to focus on today. But I also wanted to briefly touch on problem management. Now, really there's not a lot of things that you have to, problem management is so simple because you really, problems underpin incidents. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to, most of your problems are going to come from an incident. So you say, how many incidents a month am I getting in on this issue? Well, I'm getting 100. Well, that's a problem. So what you want to do is you want to create a problem record so that you can start to link these incidents to your problem and be able to stay on top of that and be able to respond back to your customers that, you know, you're working on this issue. We understand how many incidents are coming, and here you can see the linked incidents. I have a linked knowledge article. And I also have a problem management process. So this is best practices ITIL out of the box where you can come in, review what it should be like. Now, you don't need to have, you know, unless you're really mature on your processes, you're probably going to have a lot of missing pieces in here. But this gives people at their fingertips best practices to see kind of the recommended workflow. So very, very good tool. So that's your problem management process. What I want to do also now is show you just briefly change. So I have my change, and I come in and I open up my change management form, and I see I have an emergency ticket that's coming through. You have your different change types. And emergency is when, you know, something's broke, you got to get it fixed immediately. A normal change usually goes through a CAB meeting. A standard change is typically like a pre-approved change, infrastructure, patching, things like that. So I've got my change set. It's actually been approved. So I'm going to come out here, and I'm on my CAB meeting, and I'm going to come out of here. I'm going to look at my what changes are out there. So I can see different color codes here, and if I click on my legend here, I can see what they mean. My orange is my normal, green is standard, the red is emergency, and then I even have a couple of releases that are going to go during this time. I also have a blackout period, and I have a non-blackout period. And this is more or less, we're not going to do any changes, but the system's not down. So this is very nice when you're trying to plan for change. You don't have to look at emails and, you know, look at maybe a system that doesn't give you a view like this. This is very, very powerful change management tool. And as you can see, everything flows right into it. As with the problem, you also have the change, and you can see that it comes from problem, it comes from release and request management. You have decision trees, tells you about registration. Very nice. So next thing I'm going to show you, and the last thing, is I'm going to talk a little bit about dashboards and reports. So Remedyforce uses the Salesforce reporting engine, which to me is one of the best reporting engines out there. It is so intuitive. It is so easy to use. It's easy to schedule. And this is an out-of-the-box dashboard right here that I worked on. Added a couple things, like I wanted to see who my incident offenders are, right? Who's sending in the most incidents? I wanted to know what type of knowledge articles I had out there. Priority 1 issues. If I click edit on this, I can come in here and I can change my tiles around and make changes. Maybe I want to make the values descend. I want to do record count versus auto. So there's lots of different things you can do here to change the different values of your dashboard. This is the one I changed the other day. I said, you know what, my formatting, I want the value to be ascending, not descending. So I click on that and see how it switches. I can close this. I can add a lot of different tiles in to this dashboard. And if I want to go directly to the report, I just click on it. And that drills me right down to the report. Then I can see my summarization, how it's summarized, what the date range is, and then I can customize it. If I come in here to customize it, now I have different filters I can add. For instance, maybe I want to see just all the false tickets. And maybe I don't want to see this group by category, or it's grouped by client name. I'm going to pull the client name up here. And I'm going to pull category down here to this grouping. And now I have just grouped this by category, and I've created another new report. I could do a save as and then close it out. Very powerful. Now remember earlier when I did a quick survey? Well, there is a survey dashboard that I told you about. And it is a right out of the box BMC Remedyforce survey. This is a high-level look, and I think you could change some of these colors and things like that and make it look a little cleaner. But I can see, you know, what's my performance, satisfaction, effectiveness, timeliness. That's all fed automatically once you configure your survey, which is very easy to do. It's all fed right into the survey dashboard. So if you want more training, I offer up all the administrator guides and videos on the side here. We also have the incident problem management processes that we talked about. You can do custom links. This is our website. So there's lots of features. I briefly touched on some of them, but I think I did pretty good on a few of them also. So with that, I am going to get it back over to you, Craig.
Okay.
And let's take our last poll.
All right.
So what are some of the biggest challenges your support team faces? And we'll give everybody a second here. When you're ever ready, you can close that, Craig.
Okay, looks like some people are still voting. Okay, I'm going to close it down in about 5 seconds. Okay. Here we go.
All right, so let's take a look at this poll. So, common, too many idle or past due tickets. I've seen it. You have a system, they kind of go into this dark hole and they just sit there. And then you come back and you look at them every once in a while and the list gets bigger. I feel you. Not following or lack of defined best practices. Okay, close second. And categorizing tickets. Okay, I saw some similarities here between what you think your end users think about you and what your staff users think. So very good. I appreciate that, everybody. And Craig, that's it for me. I'll let you close it out, my friend.
Well, not so fast, Mark. We got a couple of questions. So,
Okay.
hang on. Okay. One question that we got from Douglas is, how is WAN performance for the Remedyforce self-service portal? He says that if it takes too long or seems to take too long, end users will not use it, which is true.
Yeah, I mean, you saw how fast I was going through the live environment on the self-service portal. I think, Salesforce has the infrastructure there to keep, if it's a browser-based application, so I think a lot of it depends on what browser you're using. I've had more luck using like Mozilla and Chrome. It also depends on any lockdowns you have on your network, your bandwidth. But I've typically seen the WANs having no problems with the users, the end users. It's very fast. I mean, I was doing a live demo. You saw what I was doing right there, and I was doing that from my house.
Okay. Douglas has a follow-up question as well about performance. How is the staff portal when you have 1,000 active tickets and 10,000 archival closed tickets?
That's a great question. I have not noticed any degradation, and I have thousands of closed tickets in my private org, and even on implementations that I've done where we've put Remedyforce on a Salesforce org where a customer has been using Salesforce for years, where they use the case object for CRM, and I've never seen a problem with the number of tickets on the system. I mean, you do have the ability to purge when you want to, and if you do purge and you say, oops, why did I do that, you do have like 45 days to get back the deleted data. So, I mean, Salesforce is a multi-tenant environment, and they keep adding on to that tenancy every day. And I've noticed that the performance has gotten better. And there's actually a website you can go to called trust.salesforce, which shows you performance for each of their tenants. And they're open book when it comes to performance of their back end. So, and obviously there's a little more reading. You could probably do that, but this really is all built on the force.com platform.
Okay. There was a question that we've got prior to the webinar, but related to it. The question is, currently we allow our users to submit IT requests by sending an email to IT support mailbox. The ticket is then automatically generated by our current ticketing system, which is Track IT. Does Remedyforce do that too?
Yes, and what it does is Remedyforce, you can create an email listener, and the email listener is just, you point that address to your, say, internal service desk address, and so when your users send an email to service desk, it will automatically create an incident within Remedyforce, and you can also map some fields and create delimiters on those fields, and you can set priorities on those tickets as well. So I have a lot of customers that use the, they call it email to incident, because they don't really have a good sense of what their data structure is or how many tickets they're getting in. So when you kind of take an agile approach of just letting people, send an email, then you can start to digest some of this data and categorize it and really kind of get a feel for what your customers, are sending in and quantifying how many tickets a day you're getting in. So good question.
Okay, looks like we're about out of time, so I just want to, on behalf of the Cloudaction team, to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar. We'll be letting you know, we're going to report about who actually who was attending and how many live polls you participated in, so we'll let that person know within 24 hours about the gift card, and we'll also be contacting you as soon as possible about the complimentary assessment or health check. Mark did a great job, but it was a limited amount of time to go through everything. If you'd like additional information or if you have additional questions, You can always contact me at craig.dees@cloudaction.com or through our Ask Us Now site on our website. And with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and thank you very much for your participation.